Hi, and welcome to a very special edition of Two-Faced Wrestling Talk. We're actually in Houston live before the Elimination Chamber pay-per-view. I'm Kelsi. This is Paul.
Awesome environment. We're at the beer garden at Saint Arnold Brewing. First time we've been here. We're inside. Outside is packed. Inside is packed. This is just an awesome, beautiful place.
Yeah.
And, of course, we've got our delicious Saint Arnold beer. I've got the art car. You've got the Raspberry AF. And we are ready to go to talk about Elimination Chamber.
Yeah, it's going to be a pretty good pay-per-view, I think. But I think it's unfortunate that the placement of the pay-per-view comes after the Royal Rumble and before WrestleMania. That's like two of your biggest pay-per-views of the year. And so Elimination Chamber, I think, always has like a tough spot between those two big shows. However, I think they've done a pretty decent job, unlike some other years with the build. And I actually think it's going to be a decent show.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a general consensus that this is the least interesting pay-per-view of the year because, like you said, it's between Royal Rumble and WrestleMania. Obviously, the history-making event of the women's tag team title is really what's going to push this event into a popular consciousness. And look, the men's Elimination Chamber match is going to be awesome, but there are a lot of matches that very easily could go on just Raw and SmackDown and aren't necessarily pay-per-view worthy.
Yeah, I mean, you run the risk of that happening at any time, though. But let's talk about the actual matches that are on the show. I think the thing I'm looking forward to most is the women's tag team titles being decided who's the first champions. Well, the first. It did happen before, but in WWE world, it's the first. So I'm excited, but if Bayley and Sasha don't win, I think it's a real waste of storytelling because they never let him have the one-on-one feud that I thought that they were going to finally do last year at Elimination Chamber. But then afterwards, they blew it off and they started to kind of work as a tag team and they started to build up the story of Sasha and Bayley's friendship being very strong. However, like now, it's kind of crazy if we don't see them become the first champions. I can understand, okay, a lot of people are predicting that Nia and Tamina might be the first champs.
Right.
But to me, then you're missing an opportunity to have Bayley and Sasha have a really special thing as the first champs in like the record books for now. I know you could argue, yeah, but what happens at Mania when they challenge for the tag titles and then they win it for the first time at Mania? Wouldn't that be worth the payoff? Them having a big WrestleMania moment and becoming champs there? You could argue that, but because it's the first champs ever, I feel like it should be them over having a WrestleMania moment either. So I don't know. I think that's the better way to go.
Yeah, I mean, they were doing such a build to that feud.
Yes.
And then the feud went away.
Yes.
They suddenly reconciled. So to me, the only thing that makes sense is for them to be the tag team champs, make that history, be the first. And then, Tamina and Nia face them at WrestleMania. That to me is really the only way to go. But we've seen a lot of predictions out there that Tamina and Nia are going to be the ones to win it.
Yeah.
I think one thing's for sure, I don't think anybody thinks it's going to be Mandy or Sonya or the Iconics or the thrown together team of Naomi and Carmella. So, I mean, really, there's not a lot of chances or choices on who it would be.
Yeah, I feel like it can't be Naomi and Carmella. There's a lot of drama if you guys are keeping up with like outside of wrestling storyline stuff. Their outside of wrestling drama right now is almost more intense than the real wrestling drama. I don't know why that is, but it is what it is. I guess that's life. But yeah, I don't think that they could put the belts on them with all the scandal stuff surrounding both of them right now. That would be quite a shame. But again, we basically would love it if you would share our podcast right now. We're just talking Elimination Chamber, anything you guys want to talk about, anything wrestling related. We're here, again, live in Houston where the pay-per-view is taking place in just a few hours. So we're kind of getting pumped up. We're here at Saint Arnold Brewing Company enjoying some awesome beer. I have a Raspberry AF, which is a sour beer, but it's really good. And Paul is drinking an IPA.
Yep, the art car. And, of course, today's pay-per-view is down the street where the Rockets play at Toyota Center. Of course, this week it was announced that next year's Royal Rumble is going to be even closer to St. Arnold at Minute Maid Park. So, again, continuing the trend they started this year, going to the baseball stadium in Phoenix at Chase Field.
Right.
This year they'll be at Minute Maid Park. So Houston kind of having two big pay-per-view events here in an 11-month time frame. Pretty awesome for them.
I think the Royal Rumble being here is huge, like way more than this pay-per-view,
Right.
in my opinion, because the Royal Rumble is consistently a lot of people's favorite pay-per-view besides WrestleMania of the year, including myself, because there's so much intrigue about what could happen, the surprises that could just occur.
Right.
However, a lot of people were saying there weren't many surprises at this year's Royal Rumble, but I thought it was still a great pay-per-view as opposed to years past. So I thought that was kind of pretty telling, that it's actually better storytelling than usual, in my opinion.
Well, speaking of the women's match, and you mentioned the Royal Rumble, remember we kind of talked about how Tamina looked like she was moving slowly.
Yeah.
So it'll be interesting to see her tonight, to see if she's kind of back on track of what we've seen in the past, because obviously her and Nia Jax form a very formidable tag team.
Right.
And really could be a kind of dominant tag team in that division. Right. But obviously we feel like Bayley and Sasha should be the whole title holders. But you certainly feel like Nia and Tamina could be somebody who grabs the belts at some point and holds on to them for a long time.
Yes, definitely. I could see that happening. What other matches, though, are you looking forward to on the show?
Well, I mean, outside of the world title match, which I think is going to be tremendous, you've got 6 really good superstars in that, especially with the addition of Kofi, which we'll be talking about a little later, what he did this week. The other match I'm really looking forward to is on the pre-show. Buddy Murphy against Tozawa, I think could be a really, really good pay-per-view. Title match.
Yeah, it could. I'm looking forward to that one too, but like you alluded to, the men's chamber match, I think is going to be great. There's all this speculation, who will win. Oh, one of our viewers has an interesting take here. GRUSS512 says he thinks Sami Zayn will return to help Daniel Bryan win tonight. That's an interesting take because apparently Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn are on the same recovery schedule. So that's kind of interesting since Kevin Owens is about to come back. I'm guessing Sami Zayn's almost ready to come back. And I could see Sami Zayn align with like the whole do-gooder Daniel Bryan type of thing. Like ego-friendly, save the world persona. That would be totally in line with Daniel Bryan's character. So that's an interesting prediction there. Very, very good point. I would have never thought of that ever. I want to see Samoa Joe win, personally.
Yeah, absolutely.
I feel like give this man, and I said this on my friend Warren's podcast this week, give this man a title right now. He's like one of the best talkers in all of WWE. He's incredible. He never fails to deliver in big matches, but he never wins. So somehow, and I was talking about this again with my friend Warren, somehow he still has an allure of someone who's very dangerous and a formidable foe. However, he always ends up losing in the end. Could tonight be the night he wins? I'm doubting it, but I would love that if it were to happen for sure.
I do want to point out, Gene Reynolds pointed this out, and he didn't catch our sarcasm about the first women's tag team. Gotta see the air quotes. In WWE world, they're touting this as the first women's tag team. But of course, there was a women's tag team title back in the day, and he properly pointed out Fire and Desire were your first women's tag team champs. But in this new incarnation, and again, WWE has a tendency to forget about history. So,
or they like to rewrite history.
Yeah. So it'll be interesting to see. More people starting to weigh in, Kelsi.
Yeah, a lot of people are saying they want Joe to win. Joe deserves to win, says Marcus Davis. I would love it, but again, I'm skeptical because I could see Daniel Bryan retaining and then, going on to Mania to have a decent match with, I'm not sure who, but I mean, whoever he faces would be great. But imagine if Joe did win and then Bryan wanted a rematch for the title one-on-one at Mania. To me, that is definitely a WrestleMania worthy match right there. I mean, I would love to see Daniel Bryan and Samoa Joe on a WWE stage, one-on-one, WrestleMania, yes. That's
what I'm really hopeful for, that Samoa Joe finally gets his due and gets a belt and gets to be in the SmackDown main event against probably Daniel Bryan. I think that would make total sense. And look, I think if Samoa Joe were to win tonight, I think the crowd at Toyota Center would erupt, because as much of a heel as he is, you saw it on SmackDown. The crowd is chanting for him. They love Samoa Joe, and we love Samoa Joe. And he's one of the best athletic big men there is in the business.
Joe. So let's talk about, for a while, Daniel Bryan, he was a big underdog. Now I think he's so popular, you can't really necessarily call him an underdog anymore. But, we've got some of our listeners right now and viewers making some great points. Again, G. Russ 512 says, I would really like Kofi to win. And to me, Kofi's the true underdog in this match. And of course, Ali originally was going to be the underdog for the match. Unfortunately, he suffered a concussion. And as we talked about on our weekly podcast, Two-Face Wrestling Talk, Paul, one of his favorites is Ali. So it's a shame that he can't wrestle in the match, but I think this is a great thing for Kofi Kingston overall. Not a great thing that Ali's hurt, but just great for Kofi to get the ability to shine. Like in that gauntlet match, it was a great way to build him up as a serious contender in this match in such a short amount of time. Literally in one night, everyone's like, Kofi, we want him to be the underdog winner. That just says a lot about how well he did in that gauntlet match. And really, I think everyone deep down really respects Kofi, and it's a shame he's never had a world title before. I mean, he really is incredible. Obviously, he's a great part in New Day, but New Day has long since preached how they want Kofi to get a world title shot, and they really, really think he deserves it, as do I.
Yeah.
I just don't see him winning, even though it would be a great feel-good moment. However, do you remember back when Zack Ryder won the IC belt at Mania? No one expected that, so
That's
you never
true.
know.
That is true. They could throw a curveball at us.
Yeah.
And that would be look, I would love to see Kofi win it. I think it would be well deserved. He hasn't had a lot of main event type matches. He's had some great tag team matches. Obviously, the storyline he had years ago with Randy Orton was a great storyline, but that was like his really big main event kind of storyline.
Yeah.
So would I love to see him win it tonight and kind of get, I'm going to use a term that I used the other night on the podcast, get a title that he probably deserves. And I know you don't like the term deserves, but in my mind, Kofi's the kind of guy who would deserve it.
The reason I don't like the term deserves, I never clarified this. We kept talking about the word deserves on the podcast, and I kept saying, I don't like saying that a certain wrestler deserves it. It really comes from my dislike of the chant, you deserve it. I really don't like that chant. I actually think that all wrestlers deserve, to do well, especially if they're putting the work in. So in that sense, they deserve it, but I just hate that chant. So that's the only reason I don't like to use that phrase. However, I think most wrestlers who put in the work, it's a hard job. It's a hard thing to do. Most wrestlers who are over, they've really done the work to get themselves over. So to me, it's kind of like something that doesn't need to be said that you deserve it. I just don't like the chant. So that's my little rant about that. But yeah, I think Kofi, in the traditional sense, I think he deserves it because he's worked hard. He's been a stable and steady guy for the company, and that to me is an important thing.
Some other people weighing in on that men's title match. Fernando Bahina would like to see Jeff Hardy get a title run.
Man, Nick Martin, Daniel Bryan versus Adam Cole, WrestleMania, book it. Heck yeah, Adam Cole, baby.
That would be awesome. Russ says Kofi should beat Randy Orton for the title. Is it true that the New Day gets broken up this year? That would not surprise me, in that it's time for them to maybe go a different direction with them. That's run its course. But the gimmick is so popular, and they're kid friendly, which is a big part too.
You're absolutely right. Kid friendly is so popular, but even more important than all of that, we know WWE is a business. The merch money.
Yes.
New Day is like a merch money cow.
Yes.
Like, why would you want that to go away if you were WWE?
How many of their shirts do you own? You own at least a couple?
5. I think I own maybe more New Day WWE shirts than any other WWE superstar. That's actually a good point. I never realized how many New Day shirts I have.
Yeah, well,
I was wearing one last night.
Right, yeah. You got the WrestleMania one where they're dressed as voodoo characters. And so, yeah, I mean, like you said, they're a money-making machine. So it's hard to break that up, just like it would be hard to turn John Cena heel and things like that. So, but I would like – look, we've seen it in the past. And even inside New Day, when Big E goes out as a singles wrestler, he's really good.
He really
Another
is
athletic
good.
big man.
I mean, even Xavier Woods is really good, but he's the least appreciated for his wrestling. He's the least appreciated for his wrestling, and I just think that all of them could do great as singles wrestlers. I just don't know if WWE would take that step to break them up. G. Russ says he would like to see them broken up. It's time for a change. Me, I'd be a little sad, to be honest. Yes, it's run its course, like Paul said, and like G. Russ 512 said. He also said pull Biggie out of the New Day and replace him with Keith Lee. Oh, I love Keith Lee so much.
Yeah. Well, first of all, we got to get Keith Lee on a major push inside NXT, maybe on a title run, and then we'll talk
go from
about,
there. Yeah. I mean, I think Keith Lee is going to do better and better as time goes on. Like Matt Riddle, they are pushing him to the moon right now. He's looking really good since he's debuted, which I love to see. And in fact, Riddle was kind of saying that NXT is not that watered down stuff that you usually see out of WWE these days. So he was just praising NXT and the NXT platform. However, right now we're talking about what he's saying is watered down. We're talking about the main roster, the WWE itself, and Elimination Chamber. So what other things are you looking forward to besides the things we already highlighted? To me, a match that I'm sure will be great, but I'm not really looking forward to it because to me, I think the conclusion is kind of phoned in. Ronda versus Ruby Riott. Some people speculate that there could be interference. I just don't think there's any way that Ronda's walking out without the title.
No.
That's why I think I know they have to have her, defend her title, but it just seems like we know what's going to happen.
Well, I just don't want it to be because we both think Ruby Riott has title hopeful down the road.
Yeah, she's a title contender.
So I think hopefully if she does lose to Ronda Rousey, which we would assume, hopefully it's by a disqualification or something like that where she's not a clean loser, has a great fight with Ronda, and maybe gets a little more of a push. That's my hope because obviously Ruby's not going to walk out of there with the title.
Yeah, they're not utilizing Ruby to the best that they can, I think, because she's had amazing matches. She's an awesome wrestler. She's not the traditional type of looking woman, though, on the roster. I don't know if that has any kind of effect of how she is on the card, but I feel like if they don't hurt her too bad with all these losses, then in the future she could definitely be a women's champ. I just don't think they see her that way, though.
I want to circle back to something we talked about very early in the show where someone had said Sami Zayn makes an appearance and helps Daniel Bryan. I've read a little bit, and a popular belief is the only way to make this pay-per-view buzzworthy is if there's some surprising returns or something surprising. I saw someone speculate Shane McMahon turns heel on The Miz. Something like that. For this pay-per-view, other than those 2 Elimination Chamber matches, to have any sort of buzz, there does need to be some sort of a big surprise.
Let me circle back to something you just said. You were talking about Shane and Miz breaking up this pay-per-view. I do think that will happen. However, more drama outside of the actual storylines involving one of the Usos getting arrested over the week. I think it was over the weekend or the early part of the week. Basically, he was squaring up to police, took off his shirt.
Yeah.
I don't think that the Usos are going to win because of that. I could see basically the Miz and Shane losing, thus causing them to break up. But I don't see the Usos winning now because of that whole thing, that controversy.
Yeah. And of course, that has led to all sorts of wild speculation. Are the Usos and Naomi trying to force their way out of WWE? Who knows? I mean, they could be, but that would seem to be a weird way to do it. Having run-ins with the police, that doesn't seem like the best way to get yourself out.
He's like trying to live his gimmick. Yeah, I really want to make this penitentiary. The Uso penitentiary. Ridiculous.
Interesting note about the Usos being in the title match. They talked about it the other day on SmackDown. This is going to be the 53rd time that the Usos have wrestled for the tag team title tonight at Toyota Center. So,
wow.
Look, I know you don't like the Uso penitentiary gimmick.
I don't.
But they really are probably the best tag team in WWE.
I like the bar. Someone, Gene saying, no, sorry, Russ is saying he likes the bar.
Yep. A couple people have said Becky Lynch's name. I would be shocked if she's not involved, even if she comes out and talks on the mic like a SmackDown segment. Somehow she's coming out tonight. Yeah,
I definitely think that's going to happen. Let's circle back again, though, to the tag match with Shane and Miz and everything. You know, I like the chemistry between Shane and Miz, because I've talked about this before. I like the chemistry they're showing. However, I think it's odd that Shane, at his age right now, is a title holder in WWE. And not only a title holder, but in just a mishmashed tag team. Now, New Japan Pro Wrestling, which I love a lot, they do that all the time. They'll put like two singles guys together, and they're a makeshift tag team. But they work together in tag matches so much, it almost works better than what they're doing here. To me, this just felt so random.
Yeah, it did. It did. I mean, they kind of created the storyline, but it was kind of random. And, you know, we talked about it when Shane and Miz won the tag team title. The joke of run, revival, run. You wanna reemphasize that?
Yes. So as soon as we watched the Royal Rumble and we saw in the pre-show that one of the Revival guys was paired with one of the Authors of Pain, I was like, what the heck is going on? This is so flippin' weird. And so as soon as that happened, I said, run, Revival, run, go to AEW. But they did win the titles since then.
On Raw, yeah.
Yes, but however, does that really change their mind and make them want to stay? It's hard to know their mindset, but if I was them, I would take a risk and leave, because you never know if you don't test the waters, and you'll always be asking yourself, what if? Don't they want to test the Young Bucks waters? I don't know. I think they do.
Well, and here's the other thing, and hi, Jody. Thanks for joining us.
Jody!
And a good point by G. Russ. No McMahon should ever be a full-time title holder. That's a good point.
I agree.
But back to the Revival, it is interesting. They win the titles on Raw, but of course those titles aren't even up for grabs tonight in the pay-per-view, which shows you how insignificant, again, those titles are. The flip side is they had a nice, good quality match, lengthy by WWE TV standards on Monday, and that's because there was no tag team match. Raw tag team match on this pay-per-view, so they gave them a little more time during the week. But that also shows you the state of the tag team division, and that kind of solidifies or counters, or it reinforces the point from the Young Bucks that they want to make tag team wrestling big in AEW and say it can main event shows, because it's clear WWE doesn't feel that way.
I mean, they don't feel that way. It's surprising that they even gave them the main event, and the crowd wasn't into it at first, but as soon as they started to realize, wow, this is a great match unfolding before our eyes, they got into it at the end. But yeah, Wade brings up a great point. He says, since the Revival have won, they tweeted out on Twitter, if you want to achieve something, just complain. Something to that effect. And I retweeted that, actually, because I thought it was very, very funny.
With Triple H in between them.
Yeah, it was a picture with them with the titles. And they're like, just complain if you want to achieve. Oh, no, this is what it was. You can achieve anything if you complain enough.
Yes.
That's exactly what it was. I couldn't remember the exact phrase, but great point there, Wade. I saw that. I retweeted it, and it makes you wonder. They're pretty good at social media themselves, because on one of their profiles, the pinned tweet is, one day we will have a match against the Young Bucks. Remember this tweet. So it could be just feeding into the whole speculation. They could be playing WWE to make them more important, to give them the titles, to make them more valued. I don't know, but I'm liking it, because it's intriguing, and I like anything that's intriguing. So there you go.
G. Russ also adding that the Usos is the team that needs to go to AEW.
I don't know. That's not my jam. Let's keep going with Elimination Chamber. We kind of got on a sidebar there, but very interesting stuff.
And we appreciate everybody weighing in.
We love everyone weighing in.
We remind you, if you're wondering what all the noise is about, we're at the Saint Arnold Brewery in Houston, Texas, the brand new beer garden, which opened up June or July of last year. Just a beautiful place. It looks like a cathedral. You can see some of the artwork behind us. Of course, Saint Arnold, the patron saint of brewers.
Yes.
And so that's where the name. Now, look, I'll go on a side tangent here. I went to the original brewery, which was on the other end of town, which was like in an old warehouse, how it got started. Odd as can be, because there was no air conditioning.
Yeah.
So our good buddy Lenny would be conducting tours in there. and it would be in the middle of summer just boiling.
Oh, geez.
Then they moved here across the street and opened up this new facility, and it's been phenomenal. They had a great beer hall over there that's hosted events. They've now expanded to this amazing space. And to give you an idea how awesome, how popular this place is, we got here. We were actually running a little behind because it took us 15 minutes to find somewhere to park.
Yes, it was like nerve-wracking. We're supposed to be here, and we couldn't find anywhere to park because this place is packed. It's jumping right now. And, so many people are in town for this pay-per-view. And WWE really is good about going to towns and, kind of making it a big spectacle, a big event. Last pay-per-view I went to for WWE besides a WrestleMania, because I've been to many WrestleManias, but the last non-WrestleMania pay-per-view was Royal Rumble in San Antonio, not that far from here. And that was packed with wrestling fans. You couldn't, walk down the street without seeing somebody in a wrestling shirt. Right now, speaking of wrestling shirts, I'm repping Bayley, if you can see. And the reason is I really, really want her and Sasha to be the first women tag champs. Now, again, we already talked about this earlier. We say first in quotes because there was obviously another first women's tag team long ago, but WWE likes to rewrite history and make things play to their own orchestra or their own conductor. And
we've had a chance to talk to some of the WWE fans that are here before the show. We actually saw a guy with the Los Ingobernables. I'll never be able to say that cleanly.
Just say LIJ.
Yeah, exactly.
It's easier.
Hat, and then another guy with a Houston 316 shirt. Had a nice
I like that one, Houston 316.
So few wrestling fans. Of course, we're inside. There are so many people outside, out in the courtyard. Again, amazing, huge crowd here.
Jody has a great question. Do we think Carmella will get any extra heat tonight? I asked Paul about this earlier.
Yes.
Do you think she will get booed when she comes out? I think a lot of internet fans pretty much keep in tuned with the news outside of the normal storylines. I know WWE has a lot of casual fans, but this is almost crossed over into mainstream news.
Oh, yeah.
So yes, I do think she's going to get a little bit of heat, and I think she's going to get booed at least a little bit when she comes out. Now, she's not necessarily... She wasn't a babyface before, but she's in more of a babyface recently.
Yeah.
So this will be more booze than she's had in quite a while, and it'll be for a real reason. So it'll be interesting to observe that because you never know how it's going to sound on TV. We'll let you know after the show on our podcast, which will drop on Friday at 6 a.m. Central on all of Wrestling Inc.'s platforms. But we'll let you know if it really was loud booing in the arena as far as what we can tell, because we'll be there in person.
Right, and we may drop a little spare change segment on Twitter tonight, too, after the show, just to give you a couple minutes of our thoughts about the show.
Oh, wow. Look at this comment. Fernando. Kairi Sane should come in and replace.
That would be...
Yeah.
That would be really good, actually, because they have such a chemistry.
Yeah.
And so, I would love to see that.
Me too. That would be really cool.
Or another possibility could be, because Asuka is not on this show, they could put her with Naomi because they've been friendly. If they weren't wanting to replace Carmella, Asuka could be in that, really, because she's not on the show.
Your dad's here. Hi, George.
We're having beers for you. Don't worry about it. Yeah. I can't believe my dad figured out how to comment live on YouTube.
It's so cool.
That's impressive.
He looked it up.
He did.
He looked it up.
Yeah. Inside joke. No, I think that's actually a good idea, is having Asuka, if they wanted to replace Carmella, Asuka, because she's not on this pay-per-view, would be a good fit, but Kairi Sane would be great as well.
Let's kind of backtrack to Asuka. What the heck is happening with Asuka? To me, I was like, yeah, she beat Becky Lynch. That was awesome. She needed that to look like a viable opponent to whoever she's facing. But that's the problem. We don't know who she's facing at Mania. They're so focused on Charlotte, Becky, and Ronda right now that Asuka's gone by the wayside. And I thought...
And she's the champion.
I know. And I thought when she won the title, we were going to see the dominant Asuka again. But she's fallen by the wayside yet again, and I'm bummed out because she's amazing. If you book her like a tough, hardcore champion, I mean, that's the way to go with her. There's no one that could kind of top her. I love her, like, really intense winning streak. You don't need to have a streak to still be a contender and someone of note and someone worthy of having the title. So to me, they just have to book her as more of a serious champion, because right now it's like nobody even cares about her title or her.
Well, and I like Kenneth's point, because that actually led me to my next thought, is what they're going to do with Asuka for that at WrestleMania. And he brought up a good point, maybe moving Alexa Bliss to SmackDown to challenge Asuka for the title. I think that's really one of your best options, actually, is to have Alexa Bliss go over there. And I do want to point out, and G-Russ says, with the Graves situation, there's always two sides to every story. Everybody shouldn't be quick to judge. We do have to say, we don't know all the facts. Just because this Instagram thing came out, it doesn't look good right now, obviously. And it's going to be interesting to see what they do with Corey Graves tonight. Like,
is he going to even be there?
If Carmella's in that Elimination Chamber match still, will they not let Corey Graves call that match because of the awkward situation? And
I don't know.
Who knows? I mean, this could be one of a million things, but it is a legit story. I mean, you talked about it not just being a wrestling story. One of the stories I read about this was on the New York Post, which, of course, loves sensational journalism anyways, but that goes to show you that this is kind of a bigger than wrestling kind of story.
It really has reached far and wide with the scope of the news breaking. Everyone seems to be talking about it all over social media, and that's not good for WWE. They don't like to be in the news for scandals. I mean, wrestling, we're all used to. It doesn't matter if it's negative or positive. At least somebody's talking to you, but in this case, it kind of matters. We're talking about outside storylines. We're not talking about in storyline land. Yes, you don't care if people are booing or cheering as long as they're making noise. However, this, to me, is a little bit different, and you don't want all that negative press going into a big pay-per-view, especially during WrestleMania season, you know?
Speaking of the pay-per-view, a couple other matches that we should mention. Bobby Lashley and Lio Rush will take on Finn Balor for the Intercontinental title, and a no disqualification match, Braun Strowman versus Baron Corbin. I think everybody assumes, since it's no DQ, Drew McIntyre will be involved there.
I think it could be involved, but to me, this is like the hardest match to predict what could possibly happen. Yes, Drew McIntyre can interfere and cause Lashley to retain, but what if Finn pulls out the win? That'd be kind of cool. You could still have a singles match at Mania if that's what the direction they want to go with him. I'm bummed out because I want to see the Brock-Finn rematch. But, you know, they're painting that whole Brock-Seth Rollins type of thing, so looks like we're not going to get that for Mania. However, Finn as the demon this time against Brock, I think would have been great.
Yeah. Well, in that no DQ match, I think you could certainly see Drew McIntyre getting involved one way or the other.
Even if they don't win, even if Lashley ends up losing.
No, I'm talking about the no DQ Braun Strowman.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm talking about the wrong thing.
So I could see McIntyre getting involved there, whether it affects the match one way or the other, because I think everybody assumes Braun Strowman's going to go against Drew McIntyre at WrestleMania.
Oh, yes,
that seems the direction they're going. But
I totally thought I heard you say Bobby Lashley.
No, I did read both those matches.
And then I was just thinking Leo is going to basically be the reason why Bobby wins.
Yeah, I think we're in agreement on that too. Yeah.
I think that one's still hard to predict though, because Leo could eat the pin at the same time. He could be the reason that Bobby wins, but he could also be the reason that Bobby loses. So to me, it's hard to pick who will win. If you were doing a prediction, which I have no idea, I guess I would pick Finn, but that might not be the best thing for Mania. I don't know. Although I'd love to see him coming out as the demon either way.
Buddy Murphy versus Tozawa, I mentioned that earlier in the show. That's going to be in the pre-show, a cruiserweight title match.
I think that one's hard to decide who might win too, because Buddy Murphy's had the cruiserweight title for quite a long time, but it's like somebody's got to take the belt off him at some point.
Right.
However, is it going to be Tozawa? I think Tozawa's great, but you know, I don't know if he can carry the championship for 205 Live. Because right now you got to be the cornerstone of the whole show, and they need somebody bringing in eyes and intrigue and stuff. Because to me, 205 Live, it's great. I've heard how great it is. However, we watch so much wrestling, including a ton of WWE content, that I can't even give my eyes to 205 Live. There's just so much to watch WWE-wise. Oh, this is interesting. Kenneth says, backing up to the Lashley thing, Kevin Owens could return and screw over Lashley. That'd be interesting. However, I don't want to see a Lashley-Kevin Owens feud right now. I want Lashley to kind of change a little bit. I'd rather have the Lashley that we knew in Impact. I thought he kind of was a little more scary and kind of more serious as a contender back in Impact. Right now, I I don't like the WWE version of him that much. I'm not totally blaming the writers or anything. I just don't know what it is. I can't really put my finger on it. I'm just not. Even, like, let's look back at the Sami Zayn stuff. Like, Sami Zayn has gotten people over since they debuted. Like, if you look back at Nakamura, that awesome match that Sami Zayn had against Nakamura, that was Nakamura's, like, first main match. It was at TakeOver in I believe, Dallas, right?
I think so. Yeah.
I think it was Dallas. And that TakeOver match is amazing. Sami Zayn's worked with a lot of people as their first person coming into the company, and he's been great. And then when it comes to the Lashley match, he had that feud was terrible. So even Sami Zayn, who could really get anybody over, didn't get him over.
Right.
At least in my opinion. It's all up, for debate, which is fine. If you guys disagree, it's cool to disagree,
I agree. Let's circle back to what is kind of the headline of this show, because there is going to be a women's tag team champion. I think everybody assumes Sasha Banks and Bayley or Nia Jax and Tamina are going to win this. If you were going to pick a dark horse, is there anybody? I mean, I don't think any of them would, but is there one that you could say, all right, they would have a legitimate claim?
No. I mean, you could say, like, the Iconics are great friends, but no. I don't want to see the Iconics as the first tag. I mean, they would obnoxiously brag. It might be great for their characters. Because you know how they are always obnoxious and talking about how they're iconic. That would bring that gimmick to another level. So I don't know.
I mean, look, I think Sonya Deville is very underrated, but there's no way that she and Mandy Rose are going to win the tag team title.
I don't think so either.
I like the Riott Squad premise, but I can't see Liv and Sarah winning it, because a lot of times they're the ones that take the pinfalls in their matches. So to me, it's a two-horse race. It's Sasha and Bayley, or Nia and Tamina.
Well, Kenneth thinks the dark horse is Mandy and Sonya. Yeah. I could see that more than like the Iconics. I could see that more than the Riott Squad. So to me, that's the only third viable option in terms of who could possibly win, I think. So you have a good point there for sure. Also, I want to circle back, since we're still on women's wrestling right now in the women roster. Somebody said earlier, what the heck, where's Nikki Cross? Well, specifically they said, where's Sanity? But speaking of Sanity, where's Nikki Cross? Not doing too much. She would be great if she could face Asuka. However, what would they do with that story-wise? They'd have to build that up before Mania in a very short amount of time.
Because they had a great match in NXT. Asuka and Nikki Cross. Yes. So, of course, that, to me, would be a great match as well. But I think what people are speculating with the Alexa Bliss is probably, if Alexa's 100%, that probably could be a direction they would go.
I could see that, because they always love having Alexa. I've noticed this. They're very high on Alexa. They want her to be in title contention, in the title picture, and the upper echelon of everything going on in the women's division. So she kind of hasn't been for a while. That could be a good way to kind of cinch her right back in where they like her to be, which is like kind of near the top of the card for the women.
Veggie Garner says Iconics winning, I assume, tonight, and then Sasha and Bayley beating them at Mania would be awesome.
See, I do think that the Sasha Bayley WrestleMania moment would be great. I just feel like it's a bummer if they're not the first tag champs.
Right.
If you've got somebody else written down as the first champs, they could say forever. Now, we know it's not the true first champs, but WWE going forward is going to preach it like it's the first real champs ever. So to me, if you're going to be preached like you're the first tag team champs, and I know we said this a lot in the podcast, but it's something I feel like we should hammer home. Like, it would suck if it wasn't Bayley and Sasha in the history books. It really would, because if they're not going to make them the tag champs, I know they probably would at Mania, but still, why didn't we just get the singles feud? I'd like that at Mania more than them winning the tag champs at Mania. If it was one or the other, I would pick this singles match on the main roster that we've never gotten yet. They pulled out all the stops in NXT. Literally, to me, it's one of the best women matches of all time. And yet we haven't seen it again on the main roster. Such a shame.
Let's go back to the men's Elimination Chamber match. Daniel Bryan, AJ Styles, Jeff Hardy, Kofi Kingston, Randy Orton, Samoa Joe. If you haven't been on top of things, Mustafa Ali replaced by Kofi Kingston, as you mentioned, because Mustafa sustained a concussion at a house show on Sunday. So they ran a gauntlet match on SmackDown on Tuesday. Once Kofi was announced to be in, Kofi wrestled for more than an hour and was really, really great. But I think we would be surprised if he won. We talked about Samoa Joe. I want to talk about Jeff Hardy and Randy Orton and really AJ Styles, the other three that we really haven't talked about.
I don't think it's going to be AJ. I think absolutely not AJ because, I don't know, he's been in the title picture so much before. I just can't see them putting the belt back on him just to do it. Bryan, if he's going to lose it, I think it's going to be to somebody like Kofi or Joe. I really, really do. I can't see it being Randy Orton. I think the whole fact that didn't he win the gauntlet match, I feel like the whole fact that he won will say that he won't win this match. That's kind of your WWE style of booking there. I guess I'm in the mentality of believing that if he wins before, he's not going to win at the pay-per-view.
Of course, he won being in the match a grand total of 8 seconds. As his music hit and he came in from behind and hit the RKO out of nowhere. I don't know if Randy Orton's got one more title run in him or not. It'd be interesting to see.
Do you remember how mad people were when he won that Royal Rumble?
Yeah.
People were mad. So I don't think they're going to go that way. I just don't think people are going to like it. I think he's there to do an awesome RKO out of nowhere. 1 or 2. I think there's going to be a crazy one in the match, and that's why he's in this match.
Yeah.
So
maybe working with Jeff Hardy on somehow catching him mid-swanton or something.
Yeah, something incredible I know is going to happen.
He's done some incredible ones. Jeff Hardy, would love to see him get another run at the title, but I think that's kind of past. So I'm going to go with Samoa Joe. I think tonight's the night for Samoa Joe, but that may be wishful thinking on my part.
That's what I'm going with because more than anything, I just wish it would happen. It's my dream scenario. I know it might be kind of out there and just pipe dreaming, but that's what I'm going to go with. Jody thinks Daniel Bryan is winning, and she could very well be correct because I like how she added, this is the easiest money Orton ever made. Or that was.
Yeah, on SmackDown.
Yeah, the SmackDown gauntlet match. I know, right? I don't know. He's made a lot of easy money where he just comes in and does something at the last minute.
Didn't even have to warm up or stretch. Just had to make sure he made it into the ring and could hit an RKO.
The most undeserved money he ever won was that House of Horrors match.
Oh, God.
I hated that match so much. It could have had the potential to be something special, and they totally ruined it. If you guys remember what I'm talking about, it's a past match that he had with Bray Wyatt, which, by the way, I guess he's hurt. Where is he?
Well,
when will he come back?
I've seen some people speculate that he makes an appearance tonight,
He could. That's an interesting thought because I hadn't even thought of him. He's been out of my whole consciousness for a while, and that's kind of says a lot about WWE. Things just keep moving and keep plugging along. If you're not there, it's hard to stay in the public consciousness in terms of wrestling fans. That's the bad thing about being injured, and it sucks, but it would make for a great pop, I think, if he returned, because his character working with now Woken Matt, that I think was great for him, but he just has been a victim of bad booking his whole main roster career, and he's somebody who could really go places, but he just hasn't. So hopefully, someone's saying Husky Harris. A lot of people like his gimmick as that better than the Bray Wyatt gimmick. I like the Bray Wyatt gimmick. I just think he kept losing and losing and losing, and he could have been somebody with the kind of mystique of Undertaker. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm not saying he's as good as Undertaker. I'm just saying he's the only person who has that level of mystique in terms of a supernatural element. So to see him come back, it would be a huge pop, I think, because people would be like, oh, yeah, I forgot about him. And then they would scream.
Gotta have some surprises tonight.
Yeah.
Kenneth says he could see Daniel Bryan in a multi-man match at Mania. There is no clear number one contender. That is possible. I know they try to stay away from the multi-man matches at WrestleMania. But it looks like we're headed towards a 3-woman match at WrestleMania with Ronda, Becky Lynch, and Charlotte. So it would not surprise me if they went multi-man, because they've got some figuring out to do on some of these storylines. Like, some things seem obvious. Braun versus Drew McIntyre. Obviously Seth Rock. But like the men's title match, somebody commented earlier for the U.S. title, they'd like to see Cien Almas in the U.S. title match. Maybe at WrestleMania, because there's a guy who has had a tremendous 3 or 4 months on SmackDown. All of his matches have been great. That series with Rey Mysterio was unbelievable. Even before in NXT, he was having amazing matches. He's somebody who could be like a top guy, like a champion. For the company. I just don't know if they see him that way, though. I don't either. But I don't know. It's hard to say, but I think
he would do great. He's just an amazing performer. He never delivers with a bad match. He always has a good match. So to me, that's worthy of doing something special with him in the future, hopefully.
We'll see. I think there are a lot of things that are still going to come into focus with WrestleMania. We talked about Asuka maybe going against Alexa Bliss or somebody like that. We'll see. Charlotte will be in the front row for Ronda's match. I think that's probably a definitive. She will be involved. Becky will be involved because they can't not have them at this pay-per-view, even if they're not wrestling.
Right, exactly. But they're two of the top women stars. This is one of, your big shows before Mania, basically your last big show before Mania. So, yeah, they want to keep their biggest storyline in the forefront, which is Ronda, Charlotte, and Becky right now. That has to stay in, I think, everyone's minds because that's like their biggest thing they're pushing. They're even, like I said, they're downplaying Asuka to play up this angle. So, yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if they were both there.
Should be an interesting pay-per-view. Maybe not the greatest card in wrestling history by any means.
Not the worst, though, either.
No, we've certainly seen worse in WWE.
Mike Hart agrees with us. He thinks Bayley and Sasha should be the first women's tag champs. I think so, too, but I'm skeptical. I am very, very skeptical because I think the heels are going to win with Nia and Tamina. And then Bayley and Sasha will have their moment at Mania, but I still think they deserve to be the first.
I agree. I think back on the SmackDown Tag Team Championship match, you could probably make an argument for either holding the belt, because then the next question is, where does the SmackDown Tag Team title picture go for WrestleMania? And you can say the same thing for the Revival on Raw. Who might they face at WrestleMania?
God, the Revival? I have no earthly idea. I really don't know. Wow. What do you think?
It's an interesting question. Unless somebody else starts forming tag teams.
I know. It's thin.
It just feels like we keep recycling the same matches over and over. And I've said this before, much like the women's tag team, and I know you've said it too, there really should just be one tag team champion that will rotate between the shows. Because otherwise, you've got the same 4 or 5 tag teams going. I mean, how many times have the Usos gone against the New Day? Or
so many times.
The Bar? And then on Raw, how many times can Bobby Roode and Gable go against the Revival or go against whoever?
But if the Revival could jump to either brand and face either sets of tag teams, then your options are basically multiplied.
And then the Flash, I like this unification of the tag team titles at WrestleMania, Revival versus the Usos.
I actually think that would be wonderful.
And then Kenneth Maynard said the exact same thing. Let's hope for that. I would love for that to be the case.
But I don't think they want to unify the tag team titles. I don't think they even care about doing that. I really don't. I would love to see that personally.
Well, didn't Eric Bischoff, when we did that interview with him, I think he even said there's a reason they keep it separate, because the tag teams are traveling. It makes for more travel costs if they have to bounce between shows as opposed to keeping them on the show. But you're really talking about one tag team bouncing back and forth.
Yeah, and the rest would stay on their separate brands, but it would just make a lot of interesting title opportunities since you've got the champs going wherever. That I love. It's like the traveling champion mentality. Maybe I'm just a sucker for that. Like, Nick Aldis does that right now with the NWA, and I flippin' love that. And I think this is getting out of the WWE realm, but if you guys don't even know about Nick Aldis, please check him out. Check out NWA on YouTube. I really think Aldis is super underrated in terms of a talker. He's awesome. Lots of people don't talk about him, but the reason why we're kind of talking about that is because he's a traveling champion, and I like that kind of idea, which, the WWE tag champs wouldn't be necessarily traveling to different promotions, but traveling between the brands. So to me, I like that idea.
And Hunter Iggy, we're not ignoring your question. I'm just a little confused by that question.
12 new wrestlers signed. I don't know who signed.
Yeah,
I don't know. I don't know the signees that they just got.
Yeah, so Hunter, if you can
let us know which people they signed.
Who that is prominent, because I hadn't seen that.
I think one was Sam Shaw.
Oh, okay. Which
wrestled at the NWA 70th show. I think his name is Sam Shaw. I can't remember. Hunter, is that one of the choices? I can't even remember because I thought I saw him with a property of the Performance Center shirt. Yeah, I don't like those shirts.
I know you don't.
Nobody owns the wrestlers. Nobody. I don't like those property of shirts at all. That's another story for another day.
Oh, ACH is now in WWE.
Oh, I heard about that.
Oh,
no.
okay. Well, that's. I mean,
no.
We love ACH. So
I love ACH so much, and this is why I'm upset because, like, look at somebody like who's super talented, like Apollo Crews.
Right.
They haven't done anything with him. This man's like a phenomenal athlete. ACH is just as good, if not, in my opinion, better. I love ACH. So to me, him going, it's like they've got to have something good in place for him. WWE can acquire all the talent they want, but they don't have the time. And this is ironic because we were just saying that they put out so much content per week that we can't even watch it all. And yet they don't utilize everyone on their roster. Their roster might be the best it's been since like the Attitude Era. You know, there's so many great, talented people, but a lot of them are just kind of off of TV or not utilized to the fullest. Not everybody can be the top of the card. And that's the scary part is there's so many people that they're just preventing from wrestling elsewhere that they could really be the top or at least upper mid card.
Right.
And then they kind of, you know, disappear at the bottom or not even on TV. So hopefully ACH thrives, but we'll have to wait and see. I don't mean to be super negative, but I just love ACH and I want him to succeed.
Well, and like you said, I mean, there's only so many shows and spots. Now, if you believe that WWE is going to be more committed to the wrestling, and they seem to have shown that, then there is more room for more actual wrestling and building up rivalries. My concern is with NXT. NXT is so loaded, but there's only 1 hour a week.
Yeah, and like a lot of times,
I'm sorry, I thought they were going to ship a lot of people off to NXT UK.
No.
I thought that's why they were signing so many people.
No, like you look at the latest takeover, Adam Cole wasn't in it in terms of a match. He just came in at the end and had some kind of involvement where it was promoting halftime heat. So to me, your like top guy in NXT didn't even have like a match at TakeOver. To me, that just shows you they've got so much talent, but they don't have the time to showcase them even on huge shows.
Keith Lee was another one.
Exactly, he wasn't even on it.
Yeah.
And to me, I don't want them to make the shows longer because I think that NXT is the perfect length, including TakeOver. But then the performers that they have signed get the short end of the stick. They suffer. So it's kind of like, I don't know. To me, it's a hard thing to figure out how they could solve it.
Speaking of that, Fernando says Undisputed Era draped in gold in 2019.
Yeah.
We'll see about that.
I think so.
Aaron Flores, I want Bobby Roode to succeed. Look how much of a joke he is now. Speaking
I know.
NXT call-ups. NXT is so strong, AEW will struggle against NXT. That would be if, roster-wise, yes. But AEW is going to put on these super shows. NXT is going to have to find a way to have bigger shows themselves. Someone speculated NXT may go to Fox Sports 1.
That's what we've said in the past.
If they do, that's probably going to be a 2-hour show then.
Yeah, they'd have to up it to 2 hours. Probably. I mean, it could be fine as a 1 hour program as well, but I think it would better serve the wrestlers if it was 2 hours in terms of exposure.
Well, we're coming up on the top of the hour and probably going to wrap things up here as the pre-show is starting in the not too distant future.
Yep.
We gotta pack up and head our way over to Toyota Center. So let's wrap things up with predictions and go match by match. We'll start at the bottom of the card. Once again, Cruiserweight Championship, Buddy Murphy versus Akira Tozawa.
I'm going to say Buddy retains.
I'm going to say Tozawa wins tonight.
Whoa, that's bold.
Well, I think it's time for these Japanese stars. We talked about with Itami, never got a title run. I think Tozawa has been a good soldier on 205 Live, and I'm going to hope that tonight is the night he is rewarded for being that guy.
Yeah.
No disqualification. Braun Strowman versus Baron Corbin.
I just want this feud to be over. I don't care who wins. I guess I could see Strowman winning.
Yep.
Even with any possible interference.
Yeah, I agree with
Strowman.
Bobby Lashley and Lio Rush versus Finn Balor.
Again, I said earlier, this is the hardest match to determine because of the involvement of Lio Rush and how Lio Rush could screw over Bobby Lashley, probably unintentionally, but like he could easily get pinned by Finn Balor and thus causing Lashley to lose. However, it could easily go the opposite way as well, with Lashley reigning victorious. So I have no idea. I'm just going to say Finn.
I'm going with Finn wins it, pins Lio Rush, and then a rematch between Finn and Bobby Lashley at WrestleMania for the IC title.
Quick up before we go to the next one. Mike Hart says Kenny Omega, Young Bucks, and Hangman Page were the best free agents in a long time, and WWE got none of them. To circle back to our free agent talk, very good point there, Mike. Now onwards with the predictions.
Next up, SmackDown Tag Team Championship, Miz and Shane McMahon versus the Usos.
I think Miz and Shane McMahon because of the whole drama with the Usos. I don't think they're going to put the belts on them after, the incarceration thing. So there you go.
Yep. I would have said the Usos because I think they would want them as in the tag team match at WrestleMania. But yeah, you have to wonder whether the outside stuff changes that. So yeah. I'll lean towards Miz and Shane because of that. If it had not been for that, I think the Usos would have won.
Yeah.
I'll ask you, even though there's no chance. Raw Women's Championship, Ronda Rousey versus Ruby Riott.
Ronda.
Yep.
They're setting up that match. Unless something insane happens and they totally defy all of our expectations, I think it has to be Ronda.
Yeah. Like I said, I hope Ronda. I know Ronda's going to win. I hope Ronda wins it by disqualification or something else. Not a clean victory. Certainly not a squash match. We need. Ruby Riott's too good to have that fate where she loses in a squash match.
I couldn't agree with you more. If I could, I'd agree with you 1,000,000,000%. Please don't bury Ruby and let her have an extended match where she's able to shine and at least take Ronda to the limits. I would love to see that.
We said the Women's Elimination Chamber match feels like a 2-horse race. So which horse are you putting in the win position and which is going to be in the place?
I have a feeling it's really going to be Nia and Tamina, but I want it to be Bayley and Sasha. So I'm just going to go with my dream scenario, even though I think it's wrong. I'm going to say, Bayley and Sasha.
I think you said it before. To me, it has to be Bayley and Sasha. They have to be the ones holding the belt. Otherwise, again, you could put it on them at WrestleMania, but what's the harm in them walking down the aisle at WrestleMania with the belts and getting the huge pop? Either way, they're going to get a huge pop.
Yeah.
So I don't think they have to win the belts at WrestleMania for that to happen.
Yeah, I agree with you there. I'm a hugger, so, that's where my heart lies.
And finally, the Men's Elimination Chamber match for the WWE title.
Again, I'm going to go with my dream scenario, even though I think Bryan's going to retain. That's like my honest opinion. But I'd love it if it was Samoa Joe because it's a crime that he's not a champ. Same thing with Kofi, but I'm still going to go with Joe for now. I'd love to see Kofi get it at any other point. Eventually, I hope.
I'm going with Samoa Joe. I'm hoping tonight is the night that he gets to hold the championship and 16,000 people will be chanting Joe at the end of that match.
I hope so. That'd be cool. Joe, Joe, Joe. I'd be chanting along with them all.
By the way, one note I wrote down, if you didn't catch it on Raw, back to that Women's Elimination Chamber match, the Riott Squad actually made their debut in Houston. They mentioned that on Raw. So I guess that would be an interesting full circle if somehow they were to win it, but they're not going to.
Yep, definitely. Well, that's a really entertaining card in a way. I know some people are skeptical. I think it's going to be a somewhat entertaining show. I'm optimistic, let's say. And we can't wait to hear your thoughts after it's all over. So make sure you follow us at TwoFacedPod, TWOFACEDPOD, especially on Twitter. We're pretty active on there. And even more so, I'm super active on my Twitter. I'm at SuperKickingIt, SuperKickingIt. And again, we'll have all kinds of polls and questions put out on there asking you guys what you thought after the Elimination Chamber is over.
And remember to check out our Twitter after the show. We'll do a quick spare change segment where we'll give you our initial thoughts about the show. Of course, full analysis on the podcast next week. We also want to thank Saint Arnold for having us here at the Beer Garden, our sponsor. Tremendous hosts, huge crowd here. Everybody enjoying delicious beer.
Well, you don't even have beer left. Cheers.
I'm waiting for my next one to appear.
I don't know if she knew you wanted another. She brought you water.
Yeah, she did bring me water. Yeah. She must have thought I asked for a Bud Light. Haha, get it? Water. Anyways, thanks to Saint Arnold. This has been an awesome setup. Awesome to see this beer garden, or finally in person. We had seen all the pictures on the website, and it really is an amazing place. And we thank them so much for their support.
We really, really do have to thank them, especially Lenny. Thanks, St. Arnold, so much. Thank you guys who interacted with us the whole show. You've made some fascinating points. You gave us a lot to talk about. We appreciate you. I know GHP Network, you're just signing in, I think. I didn't get to say hi. Thank you for – oh, look, we can cheers now. Yes. I'm a slow drinker, so I didn't really drink my whole beer. I didn't have the problem you had. Thank you guys so much again for tuning in. Now, don't forget, if you like our show, we drop on Wrestling Inc.'s audio platforms and on the YouTube channel you're watching right now every Friday. The audio drops at 6 a.m. Central Time, and the video version on YouTube drops at 9 a.m. Central Time every Friday. It's labeled WINC's Two-Faced along with the date. So we appreciate you guys. Hopefully you'll check out our normal podcast. Again, it'll be dropping on next Friday, and hopefully you enjoy the pay-per-view. Take care.